Next policy is ARIN-2016-1, recommended draft policy for the reserve pool transfer policy. I'll give the staff introduction. This was introduced in March 2016, and it's ARIN Policy Proposal 226. It was AC Shepherds are Andrew Dull and Amy Potter. It was presented at one public policy meeting. It was recommended for adoption in June. The text is online and in your discussion guide. The staff understanding, the policy would make IPv4 addresses issued under NRPM 4.4 and 4.10 ineligible for transfer inside the 8.3 and 8.4 specified transfer and inter-RIR specified transfer policies. If it's implemented, the staff would not allow those transfers to include IPv4 address blocks previously issued under the reserve pools for NRPM 4.4 and 4.10. We would continue to allow IPv4 transfers previously issued under 4.4 and 4.10 to be included in NRPM 8.2 transfers, mergers and acquisitions. So if one organization acquired another and they had resources under 4.4 or 4.10, that would move, but it would otherwise not be transferable. And the policy could be implemented as written. Does not create a material legal issue. It should be noted that ARIN does permit transfers of resources. This policy would be an exception to that and is consistent with the intent and the policy by which these allocations were made. In other words, the reserve blocks have particular purposes, and because they have particular purposes, it's unclear if the present policy of allowing a transfer simply based on an organization wanting to acquire something and having the need is sufficient. Resource impact. Implementation of this policy would have minimal resource impact. It could be done in 3 months, and we'd update, of course, the guidelines and internal procedures and staff training. And I will now turn it over to Andrew Dull, who will give the, I'll turn it over to Amy Potter, who will give the AC presentation.
All right, so currently the NRPM doesn't distinguish between the addresses that were handed out as part of these reserved pools, the space that was set aside for IPv6 transition and critical infrastructure. There were specific requirements for those organizations that received that space from ARIN, but at present they can be transferred just like any other IP address, just based on the 24-month need, but without showing that you met those original requirements for receiving that space. This presents two issues that come up. Obviously, the recipients of the space won't be using it in the way it was intended in the first place, which sort of undermines the reservation of those pools. And also, if we were to allow out-of-region transfers of the 410 space, it could complicate the single aggregate from which the providers are being asked to allow block sizes smaller than a /24. So this one's pretty simple. We just add under the conditions on source of transfer in sections 8.3 and 8.4 that the address resources from a reserved pool, including those designated in 4.4 and 4.10, are not eligible for transfer. It's important to note that this wouldn't apply to the 8.2 M&A transfers. So here you can just see what that would look like. Yes, so the staff and legal assessment, the policy doesn't create any material legal issues. Yes, yeah, the staff just wouldn't allow transfers of the 8.3 and 8.4 transfers of the reserve pool space. So the last time this was presented, we did have some individuals come up that expressed concerns about dead space being left in organizations that had originally received the reserved pool space, and there were some suggestions about allowing transfers if the recipients of those transfers were able to meet the original requirements that were placed on the original recipients of the space directly from ARIN. However, it sounded like pretty much everyone that had that view was also okay with us moving forward without allowing the transfers and then coming back at a later date if that became an issue. And we see, it looks like we received a much larger amount of support for just moving forward without adjusting to allow transfers of the space. So what we'd like to hear from you guys today is, do you want to move forward with the language as it is? Would you like to add in some transfer language? What do you guys think would be the best solution here?
Thank you. Amy, the microphones are now open. So again, we need some input on this change. Simply saying you're in favor or against is useful information. I'll start with the microphone on stage left.
Kevin Bloomberg, the Wire, NC. I was the author of this proposal. It came out from an earlier discussion. Reserved pool is just that, it's reserved. If I'm an internet exchange operator and I'm legitimately getting it for an internet exchange, and the community has set aside space for the next 20 years to support internet exchanges, I need to give it back. This is just a pure fairness issue, and I don't want any additional language in there because I think that right now this is just clean, easy, get it done. Thank you.
Yeah, so you are in support then?
I'm absolutely in support.
Excellent. Front center.
Chris Woodfield, Twitter, AC candidate. I support the policy as written. The only thing I would think that could improve on this is if, and I would be happy to save this for a later adjustment if needed, would be to allow a transfer only if the special purpose of the block for which is originally allocated is going to be preserved. That's a corner case of a corner case. I'm not going to ask for that be captured here. Just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Same microphone.
Donnie Roisman with SoftLayer. I wanted to also voice my support for this policy as written. I agree with what Kevin said, and back to Chris's point, actually, there are number blocks we've reserved for a specific purpose, and I think it makes sense if you're no longer using them for that purpose, your best bet is to return them back to ARIN so that if another entrant comes in needing that purpose, they can actually reuse those numbers. So back to Chris's point, I don't think we necessarily need to make a modification to the policy because those address blocks, the way to transfer them, if I'm no longer using them and you need them, well, I'll just give them right back to ARIN, and you can just go ahead and get them from ARIN if you actually have the same need for which the numbers were originally reserved.
Okay, but in support as written.
I am in support as written, yes.
Thank you. Same microphone.
In support as written, and I was going to...
but we don't know who you are.
Sorry, Alyssa Cybera, AC candidate. Echo the comments of the last speaker as well. It's not really a corner case of a corner case because it can just be transferred back to ARIN and redistributed as required. So preserve the integrity of the reserved pool.
Thank you. Popular microphone, same microphone.
Owen DeLong, Akamai, ARIN AC. I support the policy as written. The case of transferring it for the same purpose was discussed at some length, I think on both the general PPML and on the ARIN Council list, certainly. And we pretty much came to the same conclusion others have mentioned of, in such a case, it's actually better for this kind of space to just be returned to ARIN and then reissued to the organization with the need within the policy. We are hoping that as long as V4 remains unfortunately relevant, we won't run out of these particular reserved pools. So hopefully that will not be an issue.
Thank you. We have one remote and one in person right now, so this is a bit of a warning that we're going to be closing the microphone soon, so start approaching. Remote participation, please.
We now have two remotes. Gary Burmester, unaffiliated, says, being one of those that suggested allowing transfer under limited cases, I am in favor of moving forward as written. As Scott Librand +1. As Christoph Blecker from the Walt Disney Company, he says, I support the policy as written. I don't think we need to adjust to allow for transfers. If the need for the original allocation is no longer present, then the owner should return the space to the pool and the next person in line can get the space.
All right, we got a bonus comment there. All right, microphones will be closed after this next speaker if you are not there at that point. Center microphone, please.
Patrick Gilmore, Markley Group and board candidate. I support the proposal as written. I had lots of other comments, but everybody else said them, so move on.
Oh, there you go. So he was short. So if he didn't, and nobody moved in time. So the microphones are now closed, unless there's any remotes hiding there, because there is a bit of a delay. So I like to give them an extra chance. No, Amy, any last comments? All right. Thank you very much to everyone for the input on that. We will go to our thanks, Amy, for her presentation first. We're steaming along here, catching up on time. So, with our counters now ready, we're going to do this. Going to get a few more people to put up their hand. Doesn't matter which way, just please participate because it is useful feedback. So, on the matter of 2016-1, those in favor of the advisory council continuing to advance this proposal, please put your hand up nice and high. Online participants, please indicate as such. Please leave them up high. I know, a little bit of exercise. Thank you. You may lower your hands, and those that are opposed, please raise a hand nice and high. At least one I see. Thank you. All right, and just let the online finish, so we'll just allow the tabulation to occur here for a second. Of course, after a busy day of policy proposals, please make sure you save some time and energy to come to tonight's social. Staff always put on an excellent social, although I am sad to hear that even though we're back in Dallas, there will be no armadillo races. I'm a little sad, but I'm sure it's going to be otherwise a lovely social. There's bull riding? Oh, okay. Can't have everything. All right, on the matter of 2016-1, reserve pool transfer policy, the results are, oh, our timing wasn't as good this time. The results in the room, still 136, in favor 46, against 1. This information is being provided to the AC for their feedback, and I'll turn it back over to John. Thank you, everybody.